which captures the whole story, because the shoulder bag on the wall reminds us of the walk. The moment of recognition takes place, and the disciples are awestruck. They're in shock. It's melodramatic. One disciple looks bug-eyed, raising his hands. The other disciple, you can hardly see him, throws himself at the feet of Jesus. Here, can you see this right here? And in doing it, he overthrows his chair. Jesus is recognized, but then he's almost about to vanish as well. How do you paint someone who has just been recognized and at the same time is in the process of vanishing? He's evanescent, disappearing, vanishing. The way that Rembrandt paints this, we can look at it for quite a while in half tones, half lights, shimmering. The reason the disciple is so bug-eyed is not only because he recognized him, but he's staring at somebody who's vanishing. And then there's the light by this woman way in the background. Eventually, the light reaches the dark corners of the world. Amazing painting. Now, a number of years later, in 1648, he paints it again. He does this story at least 18 times. He lives in this story. Now, this one is quite different. Here, you see the face of Jesus, and Jesus has a common, ordinary Jewish face. And he's breaking Jewish bread, the challah. And the servants come in with 2 goat heads. Theology, the Yom Kippur, the 2 goats, the means of atonement. Jesus fulfills all of that. And the disciples don't look too upset. They're just contemplating. This one is about revelation through quiet contemplation. This one is about not so much the outside, but the inside. That revelation is taking place not so much as a public event, but as an inner process of revelation through contemplation. And then this last one, an etching in 1654, where now Jesus sits under a canopy, which is called the baldachin. It's over a throne. He's now enthroned. He's now not simply risen Lord, but enthroned Lord. This is the Jesus coming back from glory, from heaven. And the amazing thing about this painting is that Jesus is offering bread, the bread of the Eucharist, to the disciple who's standing, worshiping the risen, exalted, enthroned Lord, handing bread to him, but then also reaching out bread to the other disciple in an amazing, breaking with all tradition. He's handing bread to the other disciple and to this waiter, this servant who's about to go down into the cellar. You can't quite see it here, but this waiter is descending the stairs, and he turns back and looks at Jesus, and Jesus' line of vision is right at this waiter, who's in the image of a Jewish tradesman. There's a lot of Jews in Amsterdam at that time. They fled Poland. There's persecution of Jews in Poland. They've come to Amsterdam. And what Rembrandt is doing is something very deeply theological, saying that the Protestant preachers in his day were saying, and that is that though the Jews didn't believe in Jesus at his first coming because he suffered and died, they will believe in him when he comes back as the glorious king. And here's Jesus, the glorious king. It's a supper to Emmaus, but completely recast. Well, how do you put this together? We don't have time to say, so we'll leave it there. But I will say one thing. Rembrandt lived in the narrative of God redeeming his people. That was his life. Oh, I know people can say, but what about Rembrandt's nudes? What about Rembrandt crude and rude paintings and etchings and all of that? Well, yes, there's that as well. Very earthy, but at the same time, very deeply involved in God's story of redemption. And when I put that together with his self-portraits, I have to come to the conclusion that when you look at his self-portraits from his earliest, when he was 22, to his latest, when he was 63, then I can read those self-portraits and see this man who went through so much, growing deep and strong in his faith. And that, I hope, will be your experience as well.